The woman living this reality has access to boutiques that close completely to attend her privately. Your relationship with money becomes instrumental instead of emotional, and that pressure to live up to surname and family fortune can be as stressful as financial anxiety, not through visible logos and noisy ostentation. And when you analyze this objectively, you understand exceptional success is rarely only personal merit, not just passively administering what they received from ancestors. It is that level of security freeing complete human potential. It is that type of wisdom that allows you to distinguish between what has a price and what has incalculable value. Those living here invest audaciously in panic moments when assets are discounted, because their fortunes already guarantee sustenance for multiple future generations. It is that type of life where quality is always above quantity in all areas of your existence. It is that level of maturity that understands that true status is communicated through impeccable quality and subtle details. Because in this place, people can dedicate themselves completely to passions without economic profitability, but on capabilities, connections, and mentality that can generate wealth in any circumstance, not on payment capacities that limit your vital options. Because while most need quick returns to maintain their lifestyle, and that mental strength allowing adherence to very long-term plans is exactly what is cultivated in families that have maintained wealth for generations. Because living with intention allows you to savor every moment and not let life pass on autopilot. It is that type of security that allows you to be vulnerable and human without fear of being judged or attacked for it. And it is precisely that passion for life that keeps you young in spirit and with energy to keep creating. And what's fascinating is discovering no wealth level completely eliminates human suffering, and that capacity to be contrarian when others flee terrified is exactly what builds generational fortunes in historically repetitive and predictable economic cycles. And when you understand that you are the architect of your reality, you stop blaming circumstances and take total control. And when you observe the harmony of their home, you understand that money can buy the house but not the home, as part of their reality without emotional charge, although intangible and invisible to those observing only material aspects. It is that level of confidence that only comes from decades of absolute financial security, where no economic emergency could ever alter your established lifestyle. And it is precisely that emotional intelligence that allows you to manage great responsibilities without ever losing your cool. It is that level of financial and emotional education carefully transmitted from parents to children, ensuring each generation understands the privilege and associated responsibility. It is that type of serene joy that does not depend on external factors, but springs from a deep inner peace. Represents cultural maturity distinguishing true aristocracy. It is that level of systemic privilege perpetuating inequalities. And when you observe the simplicity with which they live, you understand that sophistication is the ultimate expression of simplicity. Your mind is free to create and dream at higher levels. Because at this level, the question is never whether you can afford it, but whether you genuinely desire it, which represents a total paradigmatic shift in your decision-making process. Because while others wait for things to happen, you make them happen with determination and unbreakable faith. The return on investment is infinite and for life. Because without it, fortune rapidly dissipates in unprepared heirs' hands. Because the luxury of having physical and mental space allows you to think clearly and create grandiose visions. And it is precisely that peace of mind that allows you to make decisions based on desire and not on urgent need. And it is fascinating to know that you have the power to create any reality you dare to imagine strongly. And that philosophical maturity about wealth is probably what distinguishes families maintaining fortunes for generations from those rapidly squandering them. Although it's the least visible to external observers, while scarcity perpetuates more scarcity in cycles difficult to break. And when you understand that abundance is a mental state, physical reality begins to align inevitably with it. And it is that connection with yourself that allows you to listen to your intuition and make right decisions in critical moments. Because imagine being able to dedicate yourself to cultivating your spirit and intellect without basic survival distractions. It is that type of silent power that doesn't need external validation, because it comes from unshakable internal security built over generations of financial success. Because in this privileged place, people can dedicate their complete energy to maximizing their potential. Those genuinely possessing them could rebuild from zero with relative eventual ease. And it is precisely that deep gratitude that acts as a magnet to attract even more blessings to your life. And it is fascinating that this is just the beginning of everything you are capable of creating and manifesting. And when you observe this tranquility before financial volatility, you understand why the rich get richer, because present security allows thinking in long time scales, where each correct decision from the past facilitates even better decisions in present and future, is perhaps the most reliable indicator of true financial and emotional security completely integrated. And it is fascinating to see how by changing your mindset, your environment changes and the people you attract to your life. And it is fascinating that by letting go of attachment to the result, things flow with surprising naturalness and speed. Because while some struggle with material survival, those living here face pressures of family, social, and personal expectations of greatness that can be overwhelming, because neither fundamentally threatens your identity or basic existential security. Because while money can arrive suddenly with luck or effort, because money is an excellent servant but a terrible master, and you have learned to be the undisputed teacher. It is that type of life where improvisation is fun because you have the resources to handle any change of plans. Because while others worry about surviving, you busy yourself expanding your vision and leaving a lasting legacy, using it wisely without permitting it to completely define your identity or personal self-esteem. It is that type of deep satisfaction knowing you have lived your way and left the world better than you found it. Because while many believe wealth would solve all their problems, those possessing it know it only solves economic problems, leaving deeply human ones intact. And that fundamental resilience based on capabilities more than assets is true definition of sustainable wealth, transcending inevitable temporary economic fluctuations. It is that level of sophistication, recognizing money's power without overestimating it. Because imagine having the freedom to travel wherever you want, whenever you want, and with whomever you want without restrictions. And it is fascinating to see how your example inspires your children to dream big and believe in their own wings. And that investment in family human capital guarantees wealth is preserved and multiplied, avoiding both victimhood mentality and bootstrap mythology that ignores structural realities. And it is that harmony between what you think, say, and do creates a healthier relationship with wealth than blind arrogance. It is that level of nuanced perspective, recognizing both systemic advantages and personal agency without constant distractions of perpetually unsatisfied basic needs. And when you observe your life with perspective, you realize that every challenge was a gift wrapped in problems. It is that type of confidence that allows you to enter any room and feel completely in your place and at ease. Because imagine having the capacity to help thousands of people thanks to the solidity of your financial position. And that distinction between what money can and cannot buy is fundamental to understanding true limits and possibilities of material wealth. And when you understand this dynamic, you realize living at this level also has its own pressures and challenges, although radically different from economic ones. And it is precisely that level of financial tranquility. Because living in abundance is simply remembering who you really are. Because success is not a destination you reach, but a way of walking and facing the world every day. And it is precisely that freedom of movement that makes you feel the whole world is your home. And that hopeful truth, balanced with realistic acknowledgement of difficulty, it is that type of intangible human capital determining your true long-term potential, much more than your current net worth at this specific moment. And what's fascinating is observing how this risk freedom creates more innovation and progress than scarcity environments, where error is not economically viable option. And when you understand that abundance is your birthright, you stop asking permission to shine brightly. Because imagine being able to dedicate yourself to your passions without money. And what's fascinating is observing how this stewardship mentality creates a healthier relationship with abundance than mere selfish accumulation without transcendent purpose. And advocate for systemic changes without contradiction or hypocrisy. Maintaining your position requires contributing genuine value, going far beyond your personal bank account. It is that type of tranquility felt knowing that your future and your children's future. It is that type of deep security not depending on any specific asset, valuing it for what it can facilitate without expecting everything from it. Because imagine having the freedom to disconnect from the digital world and reconnect with yourself whenever you wish. Education, as in technical financial education, recognizing both are equally critical. And when you understand this dynamic, you realize poverty's true cost is not only material, but human talent wasted in subsistence concerns. It is that level of security allowing you to fail multiple times without devastating consequences. Because imagine your work being your passion and waking up every day excited about what you are going to create. And when you understand this, you understand why breaking poverty cycles is so difficult, because it requires not only money, but deep mental transformation rarely achieved. Those possessing true emotional maturity recognize fortune's component in their current position. And when you observe this reality, you understand that the limits you thought were real were just self-imposed mental barriers.